Now, I want to start with a whopper of a warning. This is a spoiler alert for the 5th and final season of Star Trek Lower Decks, okay? Alright, so just before we go on in this video, I want you to bear that in mind. 2023 and 2022 were bumper wall-to-wall years of Star Trek. 2024 was no slacker either. 3 whole seasons of 3 separate series aired between April and December. In November, an extraordinary short film moved millions. Star Trek Discovery wrapped up on a touching glimpse at its own future. Star Trek Lower Decks concluded after a very strong final season. And the 2nd season of Star Trek Prodigy was arguably one of the best ever made. 2024 was also the year of big reveals for what was to come in the next and the next. Sitting on that secret for months was tough. Robert Picardo, up in Toronto for filming, told TVO Today's Steve Paikin this October. That secret being, the Doctor was to be reactivated in live action for Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Comic-Cons in 2024 were forever expanding cast lists. Elsewhere, fans got behind the idea of a Miles O'Brien statue in Killarney, launched another plane, and in the case of the French fans, formed an airtight seal around any spoilers for the rest of the world. Prodigy might not have got a 3rd season yet, but it did get a theme park attraction. So did the rebuilt bridge of the Enterprise D. Now, both of those are opening in 2025. Wait, everyone, shut up! That's Harry Kim. No, that's a room full of Harry Kims, and one of them had 2 whole pips. We knew the now not forever ensign was appearing in Lower Decks from the official trailer. What we didn't know was just how many of his Star Trek colleagues would be starring alongside him in the brilliant Fisher Quest. Garrett Wang is one of the last Voyager main cast to reprise his role. Now, someone just needs to persuade Roxanne Dawson and we'll have an entry for next year. I'm Sean Ferrick for TrekCulture, and here are the 10 greatest Star Trek moments in 2024. Number 10. Grass is greener, grass is greener. On the other side of the heavy emo of Season 4, as Jonathan Frakes put it to Star Trek Explorer magazine, Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery was generally lighter fare. It still had the high stakes, but it wasn't taking itself quite so seriously. If the show had to go out, at least it went out on greener pastures. Speaking of, if you're looking for Locke, you won't find him over the fence but up at Jeffrey's Tube. That was Elias Toufexis' on-set hideaway during the filming of Mirrors, as the actor noted on Twitter. A lifelong fan of Star Trek and then some, Toufexis was geeking out about his role just as much as we were watching him. Breen courier and reluctant scion of the Imperium, Locke and Toufexis made Trek history. Galactic hell hadn't frozen over, but it was still a bit chilly beneath the mask. Locke was the first Breen we'd seen take it off. From Breen and Green to the red forests of Sanctuary 4, the fence at the end of the series was to keep Alice safely out. With the news of Discovery's cancellation looming over like that Breen dreadnought, producers sought to construct a coda. The result wasn't perfect, but overall it was an elegant way to say goodbye to the series that had said its Vulcan hello to contemporary Trek. The red of one last red directive for Discovery, the ship, was then a future for craft. Number 9. The Chase, Part 2. Star Trek Discovery's 5th season was an Indiana Jones action-adventure show, in the words of Jonathan Frakes once again. It was a rip-roaring archaeological race around the galaxy, unearthing hundreds of years-old puzzles to technology that was billions of years more. The newest directive, Red, of the 32nd century, was a nod to the 24th via the face of Jean-Luc Picard. Without even knowing it, Discovery had picked the greatest topic of them all to go out on, the origins of humanoid life itself. Star Trek has always been the show of big ideas, with a healthy dose of techno-babble on the side. It has also been guilty of letting some of its greatest concepts go to waste. Long before life itself, Professor Galen had good reason to be a bit thrilled from beyond the grave. The crew of the Enterprise D completed what he had begun. To the outside world, the chase ended there. This year, Discovery put paid to the years of waiting and put a name to the progenitors. There was even a real one, so to speak, not holographic, at the end of this particular trail of clues. The creators, we learned, weren't even the creators of the creation. The chase is still on. In the end, it's probably all just Fred. Number 8. Say hi to Saturn. For want of a temporal displacement drive, see next Tuesday, we missed Star Trek's record 15 Saturn Award nominations across 7 categories on last year's version of this list. In any case, the ceremony for the 51st Saturn Awards of the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy and Horror Films was this year. on the 4th of February. And Trek went home with quite a few trophies. The Federation News Network would have had a field day. Here's a rundown right up in your pad. Star Trek Picard won 4 of its 7 nominations, including Best Science Fiction Television Series, beating out Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Best Actor in a Television Series for Sir Patrick Stewart, and Best Supporting Actor for Jonathan Frakes, against Ed Speleers, Todd Stashwick, and Ethan Peck. Jerry Ryan then won for Best Supporting Actress. Paul Wesley also went home with the gong for Best Guest Star against Amanda Plummer. The evening wasn't over for Trek. Ensign Rivers of the NX-01 and NX-02, aka Seth MacFarlane, received the Robert Forster Artists Award for his body of work and impact on the entertainment industry from none other than William Shatner. The cast of Star Trek The Next Generation also picked up a Lifetime Achievement Award, one previously given to Leonard Nimoy. Nominated for the 52nd Saturn Awards are Star Trek Discovery for Best Science Fiction Television Series and Star Trek Lower Decks for Best Animated Television Series or Special. Number 7. Never forgets the name. In March this year, one line in Adam B. Very's variety piece acted like a high-yield tricobalt device, ripping subspace open for a bit. But I'm far more distracted by a different discovery. Giorgio is standing with a young Rachel Garrett, played by Casey Roll. In other words, the not-yet captain of the Enterprise C was going to be in the upcoming Star Trek Section 31 long trek. Before her death in yesterday's Enterprise, Garrett bore the weight of history, of billions of lives, of the future of the Federation on her monster maroon shoulders. If you think that's grandiose, consider that, from the Variety reveal alone, Garrett is now responsible for finding the Lost Era, 2293 to 2363. That's all of 70 years to wear on a name. Section 31 will arrive to stream on Paramount Plus on the 24th of January 2025. The official trailer just dropped out of the blue on the 7th of December. Yeah, and there's a lot of blue hair. In truth, said trailer might well have merited a place on the worst moments of 2024 had that list not already been written. Look, we're going to reserve full judgment until we've seen the entire movie. It remains a bold choice to go with the now lieutenant looking to stop the murder and to explore a practically untouched epoch. That moment of revelation in March still resonates. It might yet transform into something bigger. 2024 and 2023 will have at least reminded us of one thing. History never forgets the name Rachel Garrett. Number 6. We second that. There are moments in life where you just have to scream Klingon expletives into your starving tissue pillow. The cancellation of Star Trek Prodigy mid-post-production of Season 2 last year was one of them. Fortunately, Trek fans don't sit around, they take to the skies. The Prodigy plane worked, thank you very much again, Michelle Stokes. Netflix was looking up out of the window. From the lowest of 2023, there was the highest of 2024, if not of the nearly 60 years. Released all at once on the streaming platform on the 1st of July, Season 2 was a total triumph. Not since the Dominion had an arc been handled with such elegance. Not since, well, the previous season had animation been so beautiful. The story was gripping, the young characters as richly engaging as ever, Admiral Janeway was badass in her tank top, and Chakotay had more to do than in all the seasons of Voyager combined. Last year, we were twice treated to the USS Voyager in all her glory, on her way to becoming a museum in Tuvix, and at the Fleet Museum in the Bounty. This year, the first letter of plenty in the alphabet was added to become the Voyager A. Speaking of ships, the second of Prodigy did wonders for all those who believe in JC, particularly in the standout episode Cracked Mirror. The second season's end reached one of the darkest places, the synth attack on Mars. From it, Janeway and the new crew of the USS Prodigy found the light, the hope of exploration, the hope of Star Trek. In all of that, Prodigy Seasons 1 and 2 should be lauded and applauded as a kids' show, for, like the best of those, it helps the adults shed the bitterness, the arrogance of age. Number 5. Space, Time, Thought, and Sweater. For its second season, Star Trek Prodigy had managed to keep a pretty big secret safe behind a vault door inside a ziggurat. In The Devourer of All Things Part 1, that vault door was opened from the inside. Wesley Crusher, the former Warp Bubble wonder child of the Enterprise D, bounced back onto screens in trademark orange knitwear. Not just back, but back and better than ever. 2023 was the year of the carpet. 2024 was the year of the sweater. We had been teased by his brief stop in 21st century Los Angeles, this year in fact. and the quickest flashback to his academy days. We wanted more. In season 2 of Prodigy, Wesley wasn't just there, he was crucial to the whole timey-wimey plot. Temporal Mechanics 101 was the thing, and that required some kind of Time Lord. With Wesley the Traveller of all of space-time and Will Wheaton the huge Doctor Who fan, the Vault was also a TARDIS. After all these years, they finally got Wesley right. After all these years, they finally let him realise his potential, Wheaton told me in an interview for TrekCulture in July. As a character, Wesley was weighed down more than almost any other from the very beginning by his Mozart-like destiny. Prodigy was a liberation for the Prodigy, no longer the Marty Stew. Number 4. Dr Kovich, we presumed. As Star Trek Discovery approached its epilogue this year, it had a canonical surprise up an outstretched sleeve. Agent Daniels, USS Enterprise, and other places. Nice to meet you, said Dr Kovich to Captain Michael Burnham, shaking hands in life itself. Like a baseball lobbed at Rom. I all saw that coming. Say mysterious character, and you could have been referring to either Daniels or Kovich before the fact. It made perfect sense that, as an enigma, they were, in reality, one and the same. It also made perfect sense to afford Daniels some more time in and around his own time, even if, by Kovich, he had to be at least a good linear 171 years old. By Star Trek standards, that's still pretty sprightly. As we recovered from the reveal, we were still counting the trinkets on the shelves behind him. The baseball for 1, the visor for 2, and that bottle of Chateau Picard for a drink or 3. That's not to forget Captain Janeway's ancient microscope, of course. We knew Daniels, Kovich, got around in his many lives. We didn't know that he was such a kleptomaniac. A great reveal, it was also on the edge, no doubt, of something more in a hypothetical Season 6. With Maul as a potential recruit, perhaps a lot more on the Temporal Wars. We can only hope David Cronenberg is free for the Academy. Number 3. Call Me in the Morning, Take 1. One doctor in Starfleet has always been keen on making house calls, stuck as he was in sickbay for over 2 years. He'd been to the Delta Quadrant and back. At San Diego Comic-Con in July this year, we found out that Voyager's EMH would be stepping out for his most ambitious home visit yet, hundreds of years in the future, to Starfleet Academy. Irony being, we all needed a doctor after that. Production officially began for Star Trek Starfleet Academy on the 26th of August. Robert Picardo was at the centre of the cast photo snapped outside the Star Trek stage at Pinewood Toronto Studios and posted to Instagram. At that point, we already knew the names of the other high-wattage acting talent around it. From the end of May onwards, there was a major casting announcement for Starfleet Academy almost every couple of weeks. First, Oscar winner Holly Hunter was Captain and Chancellor. Then, Academy Award nominee Paul Giamatti was the Season 1's bad guy. British comedian and actor Gina Yashere was next invited to the atrium. At SDCC, the names Oded Fair, Tig Notaro and Mary Wiseman were added to the roll call. At New York Comic Con in October, a career change from attorney to possibly professor was announced for Emmy Award-winning She-Hulk lead Tatiana Maslany. And finally, Becky Lynch of WWE fame, 8-time World Championship holder, has just been confirmed as one of the bridge crew in Starfleet Academy as well. Take 1, only recently in the can, Starfleet Academy has also been renewed for a second season. Number 2. Dawn as the new sun sets. Something rather special happened in 2024. So special, in fact, it might just have set the precedent for the years of Star Trek and these lists to come. That's not hyperbole, just a fact. The name for changing the game was 765874 Unification, a short film with longer ambitions from Otoy and the Roddenberry Archive. All it takes is about 8 minutes. What it took to reunite two old friends was talent, a lot more time, and the technology to go with it. On the 18th of November, we were looking back to Star Trek Generations for its 30th anniversary. Through Unification that day, we got to see its stunning coda. As Kirk held Spock's hand one last time on New Vulcan, we were all crying. 5 million people are now all crying. In the past, the Uncanny Valley has been hard to climb out of. Now, it's harder to know, if you didn't know any better, that the actor was Sam Witwer on set. The combination of his studied performance and Otoy's physical and digital prosthetics produced astounding results, as did Lawrence Selleck's considered and considerate performance for Leonard Nimoy's Spock. Ultimately, Unification is one of the greatest moments because it is quite simply a great story, stitching together elements from across the Star Trek franchise. Robin Curtis even returned to the role of Saavik. As one sun sets, a new dawn is on the horizon. Paramount would do well to be awake enough not to miss it. Number 1. Jolene, 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 Jolene. Yes, I know I made that joke in the ups and downs. I did it again, because I just wanted to. And also, we did say spoiler alert for Season 5 of Star Trek Lower Decks. You'll notice a theme building between this and our ups and downs article for the Lower Decks episode of Fisher Quest. It's not Dolly Parton, although that always helps. It's just the Jolene of the credits. After nearly 20 years, Jolene Blalock returned to Star Trek. And to quote an awestruck alternate ensign mariner, "Times, I think that's to Paul." Season 5 of Lower Decks had already had more guest stars than you can waggle a farm tag at. Sam Witwer, Mary Chieffo, Deborah Wilson and Stephen Root all appeared, sang a song of Soon. Brent Spiner then popped up as purple-headed Data in Fully Dilated. Fisher Quest took special guest star to the interdimensional next level. Garrett Wang's Harry's fought one of their own, a promoted Kim no less, not to be pipped to the post. Andrew Robinson's Garrick, Alexander Siddig's holographic Bashir, and Alfre Woodard's Lily Sloan were also drafted back in. Like the refrain, it all returns to Jolene. It's no secret that Blalock was unhappy with the character development for T'Pol in Season 3 of Star Trek Enterprise in particular, and rightly so. As Blalock told SFX magazine back in 2004, you can't substitute tits and ass for good storytelling. Blalock was also forthright in her views on These Are the Voyages, calling it insulting in an article for the Boston Herald in 2005. With a more than busy life away from the cameras, Blalock may simply not have had the time to come back to Star Trek. Fan clamour for her character's return has never gone away. Though an alternate version was sitting on the bridge of the Anaximander, the joy and the shock were still the same. To answer Mariner's rhetorical, this definitely was T'Pol. Gasps were heard across the multiverse. And as Lower Decks came to a close at the end of its final episode, we saw glimpses of Discovery's Klingons, we saw a surprise cameo from the Enterprise E, we even saw the Barge of the Dead. That got pretty dark for a second. But what we got overall was a glorious final episode and a fun final season to go out on. If this is the legacy of Star Trek Lower Decks, of cameos, of honouring Star Trek past, present and future, then quite frankly, it went out with a bang, and we are glad to have had it. Thank you so much for watching along, folks. You have been awesome. You have been wonderful. Thank you so much to Jack Keeley who wrote this article. You can check it out over on whatculture.com. Please do. They're really quite good, these articles. And thank you so much to Brandon who edited this entire video. Make sure you're following us on the various socials. We are at TrekCulture. I am at Sean Ferrick. If you type us in somewhere, we'll turn up. We tend to do so. Until I see you, look after yourselves. I hope that your 2024 was pretty good. And I hope that your 2025 will be better. And I can say no fairer than that. You look after yourself, live long and prosper. Thank you very much.